So what you're saying is the biggest lie in sales is what everyone keeps repeating.
Can't sell something you don't truly believe in. Talking is pushing, listening is pulling. Salespeople aren't born, they're created.
What is something that you see top closers doing that nobody talks about in sales training?
All right, welcome to the Grow Wisely podcast. I'm your host, Nick Parker, joined by co-host Anna Scott today with tons of questions. We're going to be fleshing out everything related to sales. If you want to level up your conversion rates, your sales, you want to increase your revenue, your bottom line, work with your team to really drive revenue for the business, this podcast is for you. Anna Scott, welcome. Thanks for co-hosting today.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here. So today we're really diving into the world of sales. Nick, I will be asking you everything from the biggest mindset blocks holding business owners back to the simple things that you can do tomorrow to get better results on your calls. It's really just going to be an honest and practical conversation with no fluff.
Let's do it. I love it. I'm excited.
Awesome. So let's get right into it. Before we discuss anything about what does work, let's actually start with what doesn't. So, what is the biggest lie the sales industry keeps telling people that is actually holding them back?
I can think of actually two of them. So one of them is like the leads are not good quality leads. That's a big lie. The reality is once you start running multi-channel marketing, you start running digital, you're running on different platforms, you're running different offers, different seasons. A lot of people will blame the leads, and it's really not the leads, it's the follow-up process and the sales ability. I'll give you a quick story, an example of that. We had a client that was generating hundreds of leads throughout the time, and they were really struggling to convert anything. And so we sent them the ABC sales framework, and they followed the training. And next month, they closed 53 memberships in 30 days, going from like 5 the month before that. So the leads quality never changed. It was the sales training. And so that's why the conversation we're having today is so important. That's probably one of the biggest lies, is that like, hey, we're not closing, it's because of the leads. No, it's probably a skill deficiency, but that's okay because salespeople aren't born, they're created. So we can fix that problem.
Okay, that is awesome. Now let me ask you this. If you stripped away every script and every tactic, what is sales really about at its core?
Belief. I'm going to say belief. And I say that because, number one, you can't sell something you don't truly believe in. And the deeper your conviction, the greater your confidence in what you're selling. That enthusiasm, that excitement, that passion really comes through. And you really care about the person on the other side of the sales conversation. And you really believe that what you're doing is best for them. Then that makes up for a lot of deficiency in actual skill. When I was a lot younger and I first started selling, people were buying and I was terrible. I had no skill whatsoever. I didn't know how to overcome objections. I didn't know how to ask really great questions. But what I had was an insane belief that what I was selling was so good for that person, they'd be so foolish not to buy it, that the enthusiasm and the excitement sold for me. And so I think that belief, and a lot of people in sales, what'll happen is their belief and their conviction goes down because they face too much rejection. They start hearing a lot of no's. They start hearing, well, I got to think about it. Well, I'm not sure this is for me, and all that kind of stuff. And then their conviction and their belief starts really declining. And so what I would tell people is like, you know what you need to do is you need to read all your positive reviews, your testimonies, look at your past experiences on people that have bought from you and had really great experiences with great outcomes. That builds conviction and belief, and that will overcome a lot of deficiencies that you may have in actual sales skills.
Yeah, I fully agree with that because I feel it's very obvious to see through a salesperson that doesn't truly believe in what they're selling. They're just selling to sell. A lot of people do say no if they believe that you don't even have true belief in the product. And going off of that, what do you think that most business owners get completely wrong about why people say no?
Why people say no? They take the line, I want to think about it, and think that people are actually going to go home and think about it. That is one of the things. They may think about it, But what they're missing is when people say, I want to think about it, they're basically saying, I don't have enough information. I'm not fully convinced yet. I don't see the full value yet. I'm not sure this is for me. And most of the time, there's some sort of risk they're afraid to take. So people are very risk adverse, rightfully so. I mean, when you buy, you're trying to avoid pain more than you are trying to gain pleasure. And so when you are risk adverse, you're trying to overcome and mitigate all of your risk as much as possible. And so when people say, I want to think about it, they're thinking, how do I mitigate most of my risk? How do I look to where I have more upside than I have downside when I purchase this? Because I'm going to be out of this money. I'm going to be out of this time. I may be biting off more work that I have to do because I'm buying your product or service. And so if you do a really good job in the beginning process, which go back and watch the ABC framework that we did on an earlier podcast. Maybe we can link it below. But if you watch that, you spend more time on the A part, which is the about, and building the rapport, the relationship, and really discovering what they need and what's best for them. Then when you get to the sale at the end, they're not going to say, I want to think about it. They're like, hey, how can I pay for this? Like, what are my different payment options? Because they're going to want to move forward if you did a good job in the beginning. And so I think that answers the question of like, what are people missing there? And you got to really think about how to mitigate the risk, and don't ever take, I want to think about it at face value. And what do you do? Like, have you ever said that, Anna Scott? Like, hey, I want to think about it.
Yes, I say that a lot, actually, to salespeople. I'll say, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. And then I never get back to them.
Exactly. You never get back to them. But let me ask you this. So from a purchaser standpoint, when you say, I want to think about it, why are you saying, I want to think about it?
For me personally, it's a polite way of saying no. That is it for me, because I'm too much of a people pleaser to say, no, thank you. It's like, okay, let me give them a little bit of hope, but more than likely it's not going to happen. And, sometimes I do think about it and I come around, but more times than not, I don't think about it.
Yeah. And that's the point, is you're not really thinking about it. So when you're saying, I want to think about it, but you're really saying no, the perceived value is not there for you. So in other words, there's a value gap. So if you're watching this on video instead of listening to the audio, I've got my hands, one above, one below, and this much value, a tiny bit of value, is going to be a maybe or a no, or I want to think about it. But if the value gap is like this, and there's a ton of perceived value, that's when you're like, credit card in hand, let's go ahead and move forward, let's do this. And so they're missing the front end of that conversation, of the sales conversation. They're not doing a good job of connecting the person with the product or service to get that perceived value elevated in their mind to where they really want to move forward with it, and they don't feel like it fits for them.
Okay.
And we'll be honest, not everything is for everybody, but most people are missing a ton of sales opportunities because they're not doing a good job in the sales process.
Okay, so before we even get to the point of the customer saying, I'll think about it, what would you say is a moment during the sales conversation where most people could accidentally lose the deal?
I think that when they try to oversell and they talk too much. A lot of times we'll start out asking a couple of questions and we'll move way too quickly into buy mode, and we're trying to sell and we're trying to push. I've said this in the past. In the sales process, talking is pushing, listening is pulling. I'm going to say that one more time. Talking is pushing the prospect away most of the time. Listening is pulling. People will sell themselves if you ask the right questions. People will actually want to buy when you ask them the right questions. So it helps them think through the process. You're facilitating the process, not trying to hard close somebody. And so if you're selling like a membership at a fitness center or a wellness clinic or whatever, and you're asking all the right questions and they're talking out loud, they're going to start getting really convinced that they need this. Like, you know what? I do have a lot of back pain and I do feel uncomfortable. My energy levels are really low. And like, oh, you know what? I also thought of this, and I thought of this reason. Oh, and last week I was at the beach and I was so uncomfortable in this. And they're going to be the ones to talk themselves right into it. So listen more, talk less, ask better questions, be curious, and that is when you're going to gain the sale. Most people lose the sale when two real places is, one is they don't do enough curiosity and discovery, and then two is when they go to present prices and they get nervous and they talk and talk and talk and sell and sell. And the person was ready to buy and they talked them right out of a purchase.
Yeah, it's happened to me so many times. I actually just recently bought a new iPad, and I think I told you this the other day.
Yep.
I went into Best Buy and was going to look at an iPad. I basically already knew what I wanted, but I still had a few follow-up questions that I wanted to ask the sales associate. But the moment I stepped into the iPad area, I was bombarded with salespeople trying to talk to me. And at that point, I just got so overwhelmed, I just kind of shut down, and it made me not want to buy an iPad. I couldn't look around and mind my business. And then whenever I was ready to ask a question, they would be there. So I ended up not buying it that day because of it. But I think another thing that a lot of people confuse is they think if you talk a lot, it shows confidence. So for me, my question to you is, if confidence is the foundation of selling, how do you build it without overspeaking? Because I think some people kind of get those confused.
Yeah, there's the old cliche of the fast-talking used car salesman, right?
Yes.
And fast-talking and a lot of talking and talking loud and talking fast and being quote unquote what they used to be known as pushy makes people lose trust because they feel like you're hiding something.
Mm-hmm.
And we call that commission breath, where people can smell your commission breath. And so when they're desperate for a sale and they're push, it pushes people away. But if you're poised and you're relaxed and you're calm and you're very just kind of a little bit more low key, almost in a position of strength where you're like, you know what, hold on a second. I'm not sure this is even the right fit for you. Let me learn more about your situation and even discover if this is the right fit. And if it is, we can talk about moving forward. But if not, I'll give you some recommendations on somewhere else to go. That totally tears down the walls and takes the pressure off. Like, oh, this person's not trying to cram something down my throat. What they're doing is trying to find a right solution, and we're working together on this, right? So I think that's kind of really overlooked, especially in the sales industry, is just poise, being relaxed, being calm. And that comes with experience and reps. So if you're new to sales, you got to practice role playing. You got to role play with other people. You can practice in the mirror, record your sales calls if you're doing them over Zoom or whatever, and watch them back. But see, like, are you talking 100 miles an hour? And I got to tell you this, and I got to tell you this, and I tell you about this feature. And I got to do this, and then freaking people out. Or you're like, you know what, Anna Scott, I don't even know if this is the right fit for you. Let's just have a conversation real quick, and let me learn more about what you're trying to accomplish and what you need, and let's see if there's an option for you here, and then we'll go from there. Fair enough? All right, so let's do that.
Yeah, I like that advice. So you mentioned something about practicing scripts and that kind of thing. So if a salesperson only had 60 seconds to make someone feel understood, what would you tell them to do, or any advice that you would give them to make the customer feel understood?
Real quick, if you're getting some value out of this, hit that subscribe button. Let's get back to it. I would immediately ask them the best possible questions you possibly can in 60 seconds, because you're not going to sell anybody anything in 60 seconds, but what you can sell them in 60 seconds is a little bit more of their time. So if in 60 seconds you can get them curious enough to give you more of their time, like if somebody's kind of in a hurry, they're in your facility, they're interested in learning more, maybe you give them a quick tour and they're like, you know what, I gotta go. You can say something to create a lot of curiosity, but ask them a question right behind that to get them to give you another 5 minutes of your time. And then you ask more follow-up questions and engage them in a conversation and find out what their hot buttons are and what they're really looking for, whether it's pain or a certain thing that they're trying to fix in their life or save time, money, or effort or energy, or whatever problem they're trying to solve in their life. If you can find that and say, hey, you know what, we got a great solution for that, then you can turn that conversation around.
Okay, that's good advice. What would you say is the difference between a salesperson who struggles for years and one who figures it out fast? What separates the two?
Oh, there's a bunch of things here. I would say people that are less transactional and more relational tend to do better long-term in sales. In other words, like if you can get out of the desperation of needing the sale and learn how to really care about people, then you're going to do a lot better. That's one thing. And then also reps, like reps and reps and reps, people that are intentional about getting better. So if they're recording all their sales calls or they're tracking every time they get an objection, I'm going to talk to my spouse, or I'm going to think about it, or I have to think about the financial part. If they're getting the same objections over and over again, and years later, they're still doing the same sales process and getting the same objections, they're not evolving. And so you have to figure out, like, the best salespeople a year from now will be a completely different person than they were a year ago, because they've learned from experience and the reps they're getting, and they're making adjustments in the sales process to make sure that they're getting better outcomes. Think about all the local businesses, all the membership gyms, studios, wellness clinics, kids enrichment programs, all the different local or national franchises that have very young people selling at the front desk, or they're a coach and they also sell, or they have multiple roles. If they're not a dedicated salesperson, a lot of times they're left with some very baseline, minimal to no training whatsoever, and just kind of do sales as a side job. The problem with that is there's no input to get better output. In other words, you have to train those people. You've got to give them resources. You've got to work with them. You've got to track things. You've got to hold them accountable. Otherwise, you're never going to get better outcomes. And so that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see across the industry when it comes to any type of like membership sales across all different brands.
Awesome. Okay, so now that we've kind of gone over some of the mistakes that people can make and some advice, now, what is something that you see top closers doing that nobody talks about in sales training?
I would say that the top 1% of all closers in the space that we typically work within, these membership-based organizations, like a gym, for example, the top closers, they are diligent. So they are extremely diligent. They're diligent in their follow-up. They're diligent in overcoming objections. They're diligent in keeping a very full sales pipeline. They're diligent in following up with leads, not for days, hours, or weeks, but months. They never give up. They are so relentless, but they're not aggressive. They're not overly... They're not over the top. There's not too much pressure, but they're diligent. They're extremely diligent. I think the top 1% are the most diligent people that they never give up. They either wear you down and you buy, or no, just all joking aside, I would say diligence is probably one of the top characteristics of top salespeople.
Got you. Now, this is kind of going off of what you said about them being very diligent and all of that. I know a lot of people I've heard say are born salesmen or are not. Do you believe that's true, or do you think it's really based on the reps and training and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, there's two parts to that. Absolutely, you're going to have a lean towards a certain level of giftedness. So someone that is very high, not IQ, but EQ, emotional quotient. EQ is how good you are in your communication skills, how good you are with people. And some people are extremely good. When I interview people to hire at Leadline, some people are extremely shy and have a very, very hard time communicating. And they'll answer a question with one sentence. They don't ask good follow-up questions. And so that person is going to take 100 times more reps to develop it than somebody who's naturally a better communicator. Now, does that mean you're a born salesperson? Absolutely not. I've seen really good communicators that just talk too much and they don't listen, and they lose sales that way. So it's like sales is a skill. Anybody can learn to sell. If you believe in something enough, you're selling. A stay-at-home mom with 2 children is always selling to those kids on eating your vegetables, right? Or why they shouldn't, throw rocks at the television. So there's always some level of persuasion. Sales is persuasion, and it's a transfer of enthusiasm from one person to another. It's a transfer of belief and conviction from one person to another. Some people are more compelling and have natural ability and a little bit more talent, but it's a skill that can be developed by anybody over time. if you really put in the reps.
Mm-hmm.
Great question, though. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had a really great sales experience? Like somebody that you're like, wow, this was so seamless, or just really, really good at sales and made you feel comfortable? And can you think of anything like that ever?
Actually, since I just recently moved to Florida, I had to call up some car insurance places to get that switched over from where I lived previously. And the insurance lady that I was working with was actually fabulous, and she instantly sold me on this insurance. And yes, it was actually going to be more expensive than other places that I looked at, but just the way that she built a connection with me, we discussed kind of where I'm living now. She gave me some recommendations on places to go visit. She was asking me how I enjoyed where I was living, all of those types of things, and really built that human connection. And that's what really told me, because I was like, I would love to continue to work with her. Yes, it's a little bit more expensive, but I know that I'm working with someone that is telling me the truth and is wanting what's best for me and really believes in what they're selling.
You nailed it. Telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
They built trust, knowing what's best for you.
Mm-hmm.
They built trust. So you're mitigating risk. And so you could think, I could find a lower rate somewhere else, but could I trust them? People buy from who they know, like, and trust. That's an old adage that's been around for a long time. If you know somebody, great. If not, but you get to know them and you feel that human connection, high EQ, then you begin to trust them. And if you trust them and like them, you're more likely to buy from them. So that's a perfect example of that.
Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Nick, where do you believe that people should go to learn more?
Yeah, check out, the other episodes of the Grow Wisely podcast. We've got that ABC framework on sales. We've got other stuff on like marketing and lead management and follow-up. And so check out the YouTube channel at Nick Parker, for the Grow Wisely podcast, or you can listen online or wherever you listen to, subscribe to it and follow. You can also connect with us on, all the major social media platforms, or go to leadlinemarketing.com to learn more there. So this is great. Good conversation, and look forward to seeing everybody on the next episode.